This time I'm going to show you how to insert a T-nut and a threaded insert in a bit clearer video. Okay, so we're going to be covering basically two types of inserts today. Now the one would be a T-nut like this one, which is basically a threaded nut on the inside. It's got thread for a bolt, in this case it's an M8 bolt, and then it's got the washer type of edge at the top with 4 pins that's bent downwards. And the idea of this is to insert this into a piece of wood like this. You can see like that. And the idea is then to pull it in so that those 4 pins bite into the wood. Now let's zoom in a bit there so you can see it a bit better, like this. Now a quite a popular method of doing this with a lot of people is to basically put it on top of the wood like that, and then basically take a hammer and then smash it in there. Now this does work most of the time, but the only thing that's not that reliable about this method is the fact that these pins, depending on the type of wood you're using, especially on a harder wood sometimes, if you smash it into the wood with a hammer, it might actually split the wood on the grain, and the wood might then obviously not be in one piece anymore. So we're going to do it a slightly bit different today. I'm going to take this piece of wood and the plank, I'm going to basically put it into the vise like this, and I'm only pressing it into the hole that I've drilled beforehand. Now the size of the hole is obviously the size of the sleeve of the T-nut, so that can go into the wood. Now I've drilled the hole pre-hand, so what I'm going to do now is take an M8 bolt like this, put a washer on it, and then from the other side of the wood I'm going to insert the bolt into the T-nut that is obviously on the face side. Now the thing about the T-nut is it usually goes in quite easily because those points are sharp, but once again, like I said, those sharp points can easily split a piece of wood if you smash it in too quickly or with force that is excessive, like the hammer for instance. Now if I do this, I merely tighten it from the back with a ratchet spanner like this. You can use a normal spanner or a normal wrench or a socket, whichever of the tools you have on hand. And if you take the bolt out, you'll be able to see that this is now properly installed into the wood, nice and smooth. The wood is not split at all, which is quite nice. And another thing that I've done in this case is, you'll see that if you look a bit closer and I turn the piece of wood like this, you'll see that it's flush with the surface, because unlike the other holes on the rest of the plank here, I countersunk a slightly bigger hole as well beforehand. Now the countersunk hole is basically the size of this washer part of the T-nut at the top, and I only countersunk it on top of that hole deep enough so that the washer would sit below the surface of the wood, which is quite nice if you want to pull something or attach something to the piece of wood, or attach the wood to something that is supposed to sit flush on the top side. That works quite well. Now this is a very good method, except for the hammer. The hammer works, but it's just not one of my favorite parts. The second method is if you put the rev nut into the piece of wood like that, and you want to evenly press it in, and you maybe don't have a wrench or anything like that, but you do maybe have a vise on hand like this one here, you can basically just put the rev nut, or not the rev nut, the T-nut with the plank into the vise, and then steadily only close the vise like this, and it will basically press the T-nut into the piece of wood evenly. And when that's done, it will look like that. And if you look at it from the side, you'll see that it's nice and flat, nice and steady, level with the plank. Now in both these cases, these T-nuts are properly inserted into the wood. They are solid and steady, and they would not move unless you pry them out or hammer them out, whichever of the cases are the type that you're dealing with. Now, with the T-nut part sorted, I'm going to be moving on to the next part of the insert that I've got here with me today. Now, the next one is a threaded insert. Works a slightly bit different than the T-nut. In this case, it's basically a nut with thread for a bolt on the inside, but on the outside, it's got a much coarser thread almost like a self-tapping screw. Now the idea of this is to put it on into your hole. Once again, the hole is the size of the shaft of the T-nut, excluding the thread. You don't include the threads into the measurement of the hole. So you put that on top of the piece of wood that you want to insert this into, like this. Now, the most cases, they've got a hexagon shape in the top. If you take another one and you look a bit closer, you'll see it. It's got a hexagon shape, and this obviously is for an Allen key. Now, most of them work this way, and they insert or they screw in with an Allen key. You do get some of the types that actually have a groove on top, which is then appropriate. It would have a groove cut into the top part here, which is then be appropriate for a flathead screwdriver. But in most cases, it's an Allen key like this one. Now, the idea is to take your Allen key then, and then basically put the threaded insert onto the piece of wood, and then turn it in with the Allen key up until the surface meeting the basically surface of the wood. Now, once that is inserted, you'll see a bit closer. It is inserted into the wood, nice and solid, and you can put your bolt in there as well, and it will be quite steady. Now, another method to do this is I'm going to put the plank in on its side this time. If you perhaps do not have an Allen key and you still need to insert one of these, there is an alternative method which I'm going to show you now. In this case, you basically take the M8 bolt, in this case, since it's an M8 not rev nut, it's a threaded insert. You put two bolts onto the threaded insert like this, so it's got a nice lockable position. You lock those two nuts, and then you put the threaded insert onto the bolt afterwards like this, and then you can put this onto your hole like this, only having the first teeth catch, and thereafter you can use a ratchet or a socket or a wrench, any of the ones that you might have available. And as you can see, I am now turning the threaded insert into the piece of wood with this bolt and the two nuts, and this works quite as efficient. It works just as well. Just take this one down a slight bit. There you go. Let's, for the rest of the demonstration, turn this sideways again so you can see it from the top. Now, this works quite well. It works a bit easier than the Allen key because sometimes it is a bit difficult to have the threaded insert go in level, to have it go in straight. And it might seem to you that it's actually going in the other way, or the other way around, or at an angle, not the other way around entirely. That was a bit of a misconception. But yes, so you can do it this way as well. Now, the reason I'm taking it out now as well is I'm going to show you another way which you can insert this into the piece of wood with another method to make sure that it's straight, and then you won't have to worry about it being all skew. So let's quickly move over to my drill press. Now, on the drill press, you'll see that I have basically just clamped the piece of wood underneath the chuck of the drill. I've put in a socket into the drill press, but you can also, if you need to, just put the bolt into the chuck if it allows the size. Now, once again, I've taken the two, what do you call it, the nut and everything. I'm then basically only inserting it into the start of the hole like this again. And then I'm bringing down the drill press with the nut onto the head of the bolt like this, making sure that it goes in quite level like this. And then I do not start the drill press. I basically then take the chuck and I start turning it by hand. And this way, you know that the threaded insert would be going into dead straight, since the drill or the chuck for this drill is also set dead straight like that. And once that is done, you can take it out. I'm only going to take two wrenches to loosen the nuts at the bottom. That's keeping this whole thing in place like that. And then loosen the second one as well. And then once those two nuts are loose, you can simply take out the bolt like that, and you'll see you'll have a nice flush, a straight input, threaded insert. Now this is one of the methods that works well. This isn't always necessary. This is only in a case where you really need to put it in straight. Now, between all these methods, you should be able to insert the T-nuts and the threaded insert with great ease. I do hope that this was a bit clearer and a bit less obstructive than one of my previous videos. If you like this one more, please like the video and also consider subscribing if you haven't done so yet. Until next time, thank you very much, guys.